Now, I want you to close your eyes and imagine a world. 50 years from now, what do you see? I see a gray planet. And if we don't take action now, we'll have a gray planet. In the next 10 years, we'll all be working in different industries. So that means some of us will be the future CEOs, entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers. Regardless of which area we'll be working in, the climate change is going to affect us in the most significant ways. That's why today I'll be talking about creating sustainable businesses. First, I'd like to give you inside information a little bit about global warming. It's basically caused by releasing greenhouse gases into the atmosphere by burning coals, using deodorants, hairsprays, and automobiles. It is your carbon footprint. You can imagine a big foot tracking you down on a daily basis. Every day, by doing all of these things, these prints are getting larger and larger. You can imagine. So how can we run away from this giant foot? There are small things you can adapt in your life which can lead exceptional changes by decreasing your water and electricity usage, by using more public transportation, by using less instead of light bulbs. Those things could seem insignificant, but it can affect a lot. It is basically about changing the mindset, not just in our houses, but in the businesses and our social life as well. So I want you to think of yourself as a manager of a company. You have to think the profits and the losses. For instance, you have two options in front of you. One is eco-friendly but expensive. The other one is affordable but bad for the environment. Which one would you choose? Probably the majority will pick the affordable one. And it makes sense because you have to manage the incomes and the outcomes. But if we had an option that gives us both, then probably the majority will pick this one. So here's the question. Shouldn't we supposed to produce that kind of products in order to contribute to society? I think the answer is yes. And I want to give an example which gives us both. Tesla has created a solar roof system that pays itself over time and costs roughly the same as the normal rooftops. It allows you to get clean and sustainable energy from sun. It's not just for houses, but Elon Musk is trying to build a sustainable future for us. He's the richest person on earth, yet he's still trying to make good for this planet. Big brands like IKEA and H&M are transporting their businesses into green as well. Not just the big firms that I'm talking about, but the startups as well, trying to build a sustainable business. For example, the Turkish entrepreneur team, TAT, has built a floating solar panel in the middle of the Büyükçekmece Lake. Around the world, the fastest growing type of energy today is solar energy. Solar panels and wind turbines are paying themselves around 7 or 8 years. After that, it's all yours, clean, sustainable, and pure energy. In the last decades, sustainability changed from nice to do to must to do. If we do those musts right, we can make sustainability affordable for many people, not a luxury for a few. Thank you for listening to me.
I decided to talk about human touch and physical affection because I thought that this was a very important topic to talk about, especially in 2020, 2021, because we haven't really been able to hug or have communication or physical touch with our loved ones as we used to. So I thought to explain how important it is and how important it is for our development as a child. And I'm gonna explain some studies and experiments done to prove this theory based. So the first one is the surrogate mother experiment. It was done by Harry Harlow between the ages of 1957 and 1963 in the University of Wisconsin. Basically, they separated a baby rhesus monkey from its mother after a few hours, and they put him in like a place where it was alone and had no one else but just him. And they also put two surrogate mothers. One was made of wire and contained milk, basically food, and the other one was made like a stuffed toy and was made of cloth but lacked food. And they wanted to see which one was more important for the monkey, like the physiological needs, like the food or comfort with the stuffed animal. And what they found out basically that the monkey spent 17 hours with the cloth monkey and only less than an hour with the wire monkey. And they felt more comforted and more safe with the cloth monkey as if they would with their mother. And this experiment basically showed how important it is, and it is a vital need for all like human beings and all the species that are alive to have this affection and love and physical touch, basically, that it makes us feel comforted and safe. The second experiment is, it would be considered very cruel, especially in the 21st century, but in the 1900s, they decided that it was okay to this experiment. They did it mostly because in the 1900s especially, parents thought that it was spoiling their children when they were kissing them or hugging them. So they thought that they wanted their children to be disciplined, so they stopped doing it. And in the parenting books, they said like, don't kiss your children, shake their hands, pretend like they're an adult, don't show them love or affection. They basically thought that this was better for the child's development. And this experiment proved that it was obviously wrong. This experiment was done in 1944. They took 40 newborn infants and they separated them into two groups. In the first group, in both of the groups, all of their physiological needs were met. They were bathed, they were fed, their diapers were changed, everything. But the only difference was in group 2, they were not allowed to communicate with the children or hold the children for longer than it was necessary, basically, or show them any kind of physical touch, affection, or anything that basically a child needs. And the first group had all of it, like a normal child would have. And what happened is, in 4 months, half the children from group 2 ended up dying. And before they died, they all stopped crying, changing expressions. They stopped doing basically anything, and they just gave up and they just died. And they had absolutely no illness, sickness, anything like that, because all the places were kept very sterile so that this wouldn't happen. And obviously in group 1, nothing happened to the children. So they had to shut down the experiment because of this. And they basically sent all the children to living families because so that other children would obviously not die. But unfortunately, it didn't really help for the children in group 2 because most of them died even when they got the affection and physical touch that they lacked, and that was dangerous for them because the damage was obviously irreversible at that point. So they just didn't survive, most of them. So this showed how actually important it is, not just for our development, but for our survival, that it is a very vital need in human beings to experience this love and affection and physical touch. And it is very, very important for our development, brain development. And unlike, for example, the monkey, it is crucial for us to have this. And it's not just us feeling safe, it is us just needing it for survival. The third experiment, it's more like a study than an experiment. It was done by a psychologist also in the 1940s. Because in the 1940s, they were really looking out for this because, as I said, they didn't really think that it was necessary. So they looked into, one group was, they studied the children in the orphanage, and the second one, children who were raised in prison by their mothers. So what happened is they studied them, and in the orphanage, one nurse cared for 7 children. So obviously a love that one child would get, like 7th of that they got. And in the prison, they obviously didn't have everything that a normal child would have, but they had their mother full time. So they wanted to see which one would grow up more healthy, which one would grow up more sociable, or just what differences would it have on the children. What happened is, in 4 months, actually children from the orphanage scored higher on some intellectual tests, but there wasn't much difference after 4 months. But after 1 year, motor and intellectual performance in the children from the orphanage lacked very badly. They weren't curious, they weren't playful, they didn't want to do anything that a normal child would do. They weren't laughing, they weren't trying to speak, they were just not acting like normal children would at that age. And the children from the prison were acting completely like normal children, and they were playful, curious, they tried to play with other people there, with other children there, and they were completely acting like normal children, even though they were in prison, but they had their mother full time. So it didn't really affect them as much because of the age. What happened after 3 years is that the children in the orphanage, out of 26 children in the orphanage, only 2 children could barely walk and utter a few words. Out of 26 at that age, every child should be able to walk and speak. And in prison, the children were completely fine. They were walking and talking, and they were doing everything the normal child would. And this basically showed how important it is for the child's development, brain development. And after that, you can't just simply teach them anything. Those children from the orphanage, their brain just had not developed for them to learn anything at that point. So even if you try to teach them something, that would just be a waste of time, because their brain hasn't been developed, just because they haven't been given the affection that a human needs at the age. And it's obviously a very big difference between humans and animals, because animals can learn anything without their mothers caring them for them for years. They can just, because they're born already mature, and humans are born premature. So we need our parents for years and years, 10 and 15 years after we're born. So that's a big difference. And that is obviously, I think it was a very interesting experiment, even though it was a very cruel one. So yeah, thank you for listening.
Hi everyone, I'm Ceylin, and today I will be speaking about quarantine and how it affected our life, also our psychology. So quarantine, right? That's what we are in right now. And when somebody said quarantine first, it sounded a little bit different, a little bit scary, also a bit more boring. Actually, we felt like under pressure, maybe like somebody has locked us beyond our wish. But what's important is we shouldn't lock ourselves inside. So when quarantine came first, what we felt was just a little picture of our emotions: angry, bored, not know what to do, stressed, confused. We can count lots of things like this, lots of feeling, maybe different emotions we felt. Yes, now we got used to quarantine now, but they were what we felt first, right? And when we saw that quarantine is going longer, we just stuck in those emotions. Yes, it's okay to be stuck in the first step, but we made it go for a long time. Maybe for this all pandemic time, and maybe even now. But did we prefer going inside ourselves, our soul? And most of us didn't, and this affected our psychology. If we would describe this situation, we could explicate it as we just saw a bad dark building with boring door, and it makes you feel confused when you look at it, so that you don't want to get inside. But if you would give a chance, maybe you're gonna see never expected enjoyable parts. So what most of the people and most of us made was this: we didn't give it a try to go look, check what's going inside ourselves, our soul. Remember what we prefer to do in stress times. Maybe we just turn on the voice of a song, or if we're watching a dance choreo, its harmony creates a peace deep inside us, doesn't it? Because art is the source of serenity, art touches our soul, and art is a way of escaping from all the stress, all the worries that we have in daily life. Because even if it seems like art runs with brain and idea, the main character in art is soul. So art is a part of ourself. And this positive energy's reflection to the psychology will also reflect to other fields of our life too. Because for psychology, on one hand, a bad effect is bringing therapy, and on the other hand, a good effect can be accepted as therapy. So these good effects can be art, like dancing, music, or like painting. Also, doing some exercises at home. We can do it at home in this quarantine time. Also, even some little yoga movements will also help you to relax and chill. Remember that everyone tried to do new things, new activities at home in this quarantine time. Yes, sometimes they had ended with good results, but sometimes hadn't. Actually, by experiencing those, we also start to know more about ourselves, no matter what the result was. You're gonna find what's good for yourself, because what's good for yourself is important. and you're gonna experience what you love to do. You're important, you're precious. So knowing this is the key to go inside this confusing building. Yes, those times can be hard, but it's hard for most of the people right now. So what you're feeling is not unique. You're not alone. Everyone is living the same situation right now. And turning this into favor for yourself is in your hands. Believe me, after you find what's good for yourself, the rest will come. And you're gonna realize that trying new things is such a big happiness. Yeah, maybe you're gonna say that you were hanging out with your friends more, you were going outside, or your school stuff was much better than now. But what I'm saying is things that happen in unusual situations. Things that happen in usual situations do not happen in unusual situations. So knowing this, also the second key to discover yourself, discover your insight. Then while you're still waiting, just go and give importance to yourself, to your emotions, to your health. Don't limit yourself. Dig out and explore. After that, you're going to see that it makes a change. So leave a time for yourself. You are precious. Thank you for listening to me.
Some of us are highly focused, some of us are highly not. Are you a procrastinator? Do you put things up, or do you find yourself making excuses to get over bothersome little duties? Now, are you ready to hear what Ekin Kırkağaç from Anatolian Tene will share with us about how 5 minutes can change your life? Yes, Ekin.
Thank you, Alara. After all, while you're on the couch after a long, tiring day, 5 minutes will feel too short to relax. Or if you are doing some exercise, sometimes 5 minutes feels like 5 years. However, there are many things that can happen in 5 minutes too. It could change someone's life. It feels longer than usual when you're rushing for time, and it is definitely more precious when you're spending it with someone you care about or doing something that matters to you. If you have been thinking about getting started in something but feels too difficult to get started, be it learning a new language, starting to paint, or even your new business, start with 5 minutes a day. There may not be much that we can do with just 5 minutes a day, but it doesn't need to be a huge task. In fact, the action could be so small that it is too easy to do and feels silly not to do. A new word a day takes less than 3 minutes to read and understand. A stroke of a paintbrush takes less than a second. Registering for a new website takes less than 5 minutes, I would assume. Over a period of time, you would have consolidated so many little tasks that they come together into the picture of the milestone. Just like someone who wants to start running after a long time, the temptation of the comfort of not doing anything, sitting on the couch, resting with interesting TV programs is much more comfortable as compared to having to do anything else actually. But how to break this resistance? One way to break this resistance is not to let yourself stop and think or decide. Maintain the flow of action and not allow yourself to slow down to contemplate whether to do or not. For instance, instead of sitting and thinking about how impossible a task can get, why not just get into action and get something out of that 5 minutes of action taking each day? Actions equal progress. Without actions and progress, you're not going anywhere. No matter how small your action is, it will still propel you forward towards your goal and away from your current status. The more actions you take, the further you'll be from where you started. Where can you find 5 minutes from your busy schedule? We can easily have pockets of 5 minutes in our lives, but the more important concern is how much you want to do this. If you find yourself still trying to put off getting started or having serious lack of motivation to do anything, it might be a better idea to look into why you want yourself to do this action in the first place. If you're clear about what you want to achieve, then go all out for it. As your experience and expertise build up, you may find yourself allocating more than 5 minutes of your time each day to make space for that you truly appreciate and enjoy doing. Would you want to miss the opportunity to achieve something bigger and better for yourself because you didn't give yourself the 5 minutes you could easily find in your day? I would assume no. Would you want to miss out the opportunity this? It is bad if you want to miss out this. Actions you can take today. Look at where you can spare 5 minutes of your time. List down the smallest actions that you can take today and tomorrow. Commit yourself that you will take that action and the next day and the following day. Give 5 minutes each day a try this week and see how this works out for you. Thank you for listening to me.
So, does anybody exactly know how much time they spend on their phone looking at social media on an average day? I was personally shocked when I saw how many hours I had spent looking on social media last week. But I know I'm not the only one who spends so much time on media on a daily basis. The number of hours we spend on media has dramatically increased over the last years, especially since we've been in quarantine. There's also a misconception about only teenagers spending way too much time on media. But believe me, grown-ups are as bad as teenagers. So while we are all spending a lot of time on media, I thought it would be useful to be aware of the impact it has on us. Social media can be very influential on society in both positive and negative ways. In previous years, everyone has been talking about the cons of it because we've been using it way more than we should have. But today, I don't only want to talk about the negative impact, I want to talk about both the negative and the positive impact it currently has on our society. I want to start off with the positive impact it has on us, which I think is the most important one, connection. Because the whole world has been going through a hard time since COVID-19, and social media has helped us during these struggling times. I quarantined with my sister, and from my experiences, social media has been a lifesaver. It provided the chance for me to stay connected with my loved ones, even while we were physically separated. Social media made us realize that we were not alone, everybody was going through a hard time, and that we were all in this together. People started sharing their experiences and inspiring people a lot more. We are super lucky that we always have the opportunity to connect, keep in touch with our loved ones, and inspire people with our own stories. Without social media, these wouldn't be possible. The social media also has an enormous impact on our education, especially now during the pandemic. We have been joining online lessons and keeping in touch with our teachers from social media platforms like WhatsApp, Zoom, Instagram, and so on. Results from a recent academic study confirm that the proper usage of social media could promote a new era of social learning, social presence, and an alternative platform to foster online learning in developing countries. For students, Facebook was the most adopted tool for formal academic communication, followed by WhatsApp, YouTube, and other media, for instance, blogs and Twitter. The pandemic isn't the only time we've been using social media platforms for education. The use of media generally provides us with the ability to get more useful information, to connect with learning groups and other educational systems that make education convenient. Although it has a positive impact on us, it also has a negative impact which we should be aware of. Excessive amount of everything is harmful, so in this case, excessive amount of social media is harmful as well. There's no such thing as an official diagnosis of social media addiction, but social media overuse is increasingly commonplace today, and it has some serious repercussions to your physical and mental health. Like other types of behavioral addictions, using social media can influence your brain in harmful ways. You may use social media compulsively and excessively. You can become so accustomed to scrolling through posts, images, and videos that it interferes with other areas of your life. Another negative impact social media has on us is stress. People use social media for a lot of things, but the downside of this is that our feeds often resemble an endless stream of stress. In 2015, Research has found that social media induces more stress than it relieves. Media also has a bad impact on our sleep. Humans used to spend their evenings in darkness, but now we're surrounded by artificial lighting all day and night. Research has found that this can inhibit the body's production of the hormone melatonin, which facilitates sleep, and blue light, which is emitted by our phone screens, is said to be the worst culprit. Social media has an enormous role and impact on society today, and I'm sure this will increase as the years go by. We should be aware of both the negative and the positive impact it has on us, and in order to decrease the bad and increase the good effect, we should limit our screen time and be aware of social media. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Dear audience, welcome to the annual Itk Talks event. Despite the devastating effects of COVID-19 on our lives, both mentally and physically, we, as Itk team, has decided to keep on cherishing every moment we're given. Today, here we are witness to amazing speakers to give their speeches online for the first time at Itk's history. First, let me give you brief information about what TED Talk is. TED, which stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, is an American media organization that posts talks online for free distribution under the slogan, "Ideas Worth Spreading." Conceived by Richard Saul Wurman in February 1984 as conference, TED has been held annually since 1990. According to statistics, as of October 2020, over 35,000 TED Talks were posted. Every week, 5 to 7 new talks are published. This is Itk Talks, which is organized by ITK. So what is Itk Talks? Itk Talks are independent TED-like events. They are non-profit and just like TED events, which lack any commercial, religious, or political agenda. Their goal is to spark conversation, connection, and community. Without further ado, let's give ear to what the first speaker will tell us. Everyone admires a self-confident person, and maybe envy them a little. Self-confident people seem at ease with themselves and their work. They invite trust and inspire confidence in others. These are attractive characteristics. It's not always easy to be confident in yourself, particularly if you're naturally self-critical or if other people put you down. But there are steps that you can take to increase and maintain your self-confidence. Here's Emir Tosun from Anatolian Tane to talk about self-confidence.
Thank you so much. Like, can you imagine a sportsman with no confidence? They would have the skill to achieve so many things, but they wouldn't, because they wouldn't able to show enough bravery for it. They would be scared of taking risk. They would be scared of taking so many risks. They would be scared of losing the ball. They would be scared of taking scored by their rivals, and they would be scared of losing the game. And it's not just the ones that into the sport. It can be everyone in our lives. It can be the ones that getting a lot of pressure from their bosses. It can be the ones that have a job interview after that day. It can be the ones that have an exam on that week. And it can be the ones that have talking to their audiences like me and my friends. So this is why you need to have that confidence to show everyone, and especially yourself, to what you can do, that you can achieve so many things on your own. And I'm here because I have that confidence. And if you're not, I hope that you will gain that confidence to achieve so many things in your life. So thank you so much for your attention.
Good afternoon, my dear teachers and my fellow friends. Today, I'm going to tackle the student psychology during the pandemic. Let's get into it. In the face of the global COVID-19 pandemic, schools have confronted unprecedented challenges as they move to quickly shift classes to an online format, provide equitable access for all students, support teachers and students' educational needs, and make plans amidst great uncertainty. The pandemic itself has caused so much worry, stress, and grief. These stressors can cause mental health challenges for anyone and can cause acute symptoms to appear for people who may experience pre-existing mental health challenges. I'd like to share a picture with you. I think you all seen the show before, and if not, Lab Rats used to be a Disney Channel show, and it was really popular like in back 2015. And the reason I'm going to focus on the metaphor Lab Rats today is that I feel like all the students worldwide are feeling like one. I mean, imagine the students in an entire huge capsule, and they're not allowed to get out of it. They're not allowed to see the light on their faces or feel the fresh air in their hands. I have been talking to my classmates recently, and the most common sentence that I hear from them is that they have time for everything, but in fact, they have time for nothing. I know it sounds ironic, but it's actually true, because it is scientifically proven that if you don't use your brain for a long time, or if you just don't activate your brain functions for a long period. What I mean by saying not activating your brain functions is that just sticking to your normal daily routine and not even making minor changes. Just a reminder here, this is the biggest misinterpretation in Turkey and in most of the countries, that you ought to start with radical changes. Of course not. You should start with small changes, and then afterwards you can develop it. Even changing the location of your table inside your room is counted as a change. Or if you just don't push yourself to get outside of your comfort zone, then your brain starts to get smaller. And once it does that, it leads to failure. And unfortunately, failure is not something acceptable in the 21st century. It really doesn't matter if you're a 15-year-old teen, does it? Let's put all the private schools into a different category and tackle the government schools. Some students in the government schools, they don't have access to the internet. Some can't afford to buy a new computer. And even if they can provide all the opportunities, we've all seen the platform. Do you actually believe that it is beneficial for the students? I mean, the teachers are literally showing their dance movements. Of course, if our government is planning to add some dance movements in the universities, then I totally support it. What a great idea, but I'm sure they won't, and I find it really tragic, to be honest. I like to end my speech by giving some suggestions and sharing my situation. We shouldn't forget that we are not machines. We need to go outside, take some fresh air, FaceTime with our friends, take up some new hobbies if we have the chance to. I mean, come on, we're living in the 21st century. Who doesn't have the technology inside their homes? Let's admit it. It's not that you can't do it, it's that you don't want to do it. And I understand it, but let me just share a secret with you. Neither anyone in this entire world, nor anything that occurs, can prevent you from accomplishing things unless you let them to. Furthermore, this is not the first time that the humanity is experiencing such a pandemic. This is our first time, and we are naive. Therefore, I understand your concerns, but just keep it in mind that this is a temporary period, but you are permanent. Personally, I learned so much in the past 10 months. I learned how to bake, how to play a new instrument. I read nearly the whole world classics, and most importantly, I realized the value of my teachers and my friends. Do you know what is the only thing that matters in the end of the day? You. Thank you for your attention.